This is the 20th anniversary year of the North Wilkesboro Speedway. And today we're in the beautiful hills of western North Carolina, North Wilkesboro. Anything can happen, and man, it usually does. Especially at North Wilkesboro. Especially at North Wilkesboro.
It was once one of the great NASCAR tracks.
Many great drivers got their initiation into auto racing right here.
Hosting races for 4 decades, until 1996.
It's kind of a shame because this is one of the backbone tracks of NASCAR.
You know, here at North Wilkesboro, the last race.
To me, it's a sad day.
The track, just a memory fading into the backstretch, until...
And I kept going back to that number 3, and number 3 was the reopening of North Wilkesboro Speedway.
A NASCAR legend's dying wish fuels a movement, and the revival begins.
I felt something at a racetrack that I hadn't felt in a long, long time.
A track in ruins brought back to life as NASCAR returns to its roots. WXII 12 presents Back on Track. Racing returns to North Wilkesboro.
Greetings from Victory Lane here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. I'm Kenny Beck.
And I'm John Johnson.
And I'm Lauren Walsh. We are just days away from NASCAR's return to this historic track.
Yeah, and for many fans, it's been a long, hard fought to get this race back, but we're almost days away from racing here.
Over the next hour, we're going to look back at the history here at North Wilkesboro, meet some of the people responsible for racing's return, and look ahead to a very exciting week.
And we begin tonight with 2 people who know this track's history so very well.
That's right, John, and you can't tell the story of the reopening of North Wilkesboro Speedway without mentioning Terry Parsons. With her unwavering tenacity, she went from simply being NASCAR Hall of Famer Benny Parsons' wife to the driver behind the revival of this historic track. North Wilkesboro Speedway was once the pride of Wilkes County, and so was Benny Parsons. He grew up there, and he went on to race at his hometown track as a top Cup Series driver. But as the Speedway wore away over the years, so did Benny. Prior to his passing in 2007, his dying wish was to bring life back to his beloved track.
I'm just going down my husband's checklist, and I kept going back to that number 3, and number 3 was the reopening of North Wilkesboro Speedway.
While Benny was in the hospital, he tore a page out of a legal pad and wrote a list of 10 things he wanted his wife, Terry Parsons, to complete for him.
Of course, he wanted the house finished, he wanted the vineyard done, and he wanted, things like that he wasn't going to be around to do, and people he wanted taken care of. But number 3, I had everything on that list finished, and I kept going back to number 3, back to number 3, and back to number 3.
Not an easy item to check off. The Speedway hadn't seen a formal race since 2011, and NASCAR hadn't been there since 1996.
This is not something that's going to happen overnight. This is going to take a while.
So Terry buckled in for a long ride. The first stop was Speedway Motorsports owner Bruton Smith. Terry is the Wilkes County Film Commissioner, so she went to Bruton with a request from a movie production company.
And I said, they want to use the Speedway. He said, nope. And I said, you don't understand. Then I told him how much money they were willing to pay him. And he said, when do they want to start? And I felt that door open just a little bit.
So Terry stepped on the gas. She organized more movie and even music video shoots, electrical work, an iRacing rendition of the Speedway, and Cup Series stars testing at the track. Parsons' next stop took her to new Speedway Motorsports CEO Marcus Smith, son of Bruton Smith.
Marcus said, what do you want? And I said, I want to reopen the Speedway. He said, what makes you think it would work?
How about a giant billboard? Terry Parsons was behind the 2021 We Want You Back campaign. Those 4 simple words said it all. And she plastered them up and down 421 and all around town. There was a tangible buzz, and Terry knew she was on the final lap.
Everybody here had a role they had to play. And if we all didn't play our roles just right, nothing was going to happen. It comes down to one person. It had to be Marcus. And thank God Marcus said yes.
In August 2022, North Wilkesboro Speedway held an official race again, dubbed Racetrack Revival. But Terry didn't wait for wheels to hit the track to take care of her checklist.
They made the announcement then that your racing was coming back to North Wilkesboro. I came home and got that list, and I sat out on my patio, which I never have much time to do, and I took a metal trash can out there, and I threw the list in there and lit a match.
What did you feel when you did that and you saw the note burning?
Relief. Relief.
From the embers of that note come engines of NASCAR's best, rolling into North Wilkesboro Speedway for the 2023 All-Star Race.
I think not only Benny, but I think Junior Johnson, and I think about Barney Hall, and I think about Enoch Staley, and all the people that had passed away that wanted this as bad as I did, that wanted this as bad as Benny did. I like to think they're smiling, and I think on race day there's going to be a lot of people cheering for a lot of different reasons.
Terry was so gracious welcoming us into her home, and you could really tell how much this means to her. She said it was originally Benny's passion, but it had to become her passion in order to get the Speedway back open. And one funny footnote, I asked Terry what it was like driving in a regular car with her husband, former NASCAR champion Benny Parsons. She said it was a nightmare, and he had more speeding tickets than you could imagine.
The story of North Wilkesboro Speedway actually predates NASCAR itself. There are incredible highs and heartbreaking lows in its nearly 3/4 of a century. And there aren't too many people who can tell that story better than former track president Mike Staley, whose father was one of the original co-founders here.
That's pretty cool, dude.
If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then Mike Staley's 3-car garage in North Wilkesboro has to be worth millions of them. It's not an accident that he has all of these racetrack artifacts, everything from the pace car used in its final season to the old concession stand sign, $2.50 for a pack of cigarettes if you look closely. Mike's father, Enoch Staley, was one of the founders of North Wilkesboro Speedway.
I remember probably the first time I ever went down there, I was probably 5 or 6 years old. Mama took me down there and said, I want to go in the track. And there's guys at the gate, big old guys, I was afraid to go in. Mom said, tell them who you are. I said, what? I was just shy, so I finally said, Enoch's my dad, so go home.
Mike says the whole thing started after his father and some friends went to a race in South Carolina in the mid-1940s and thought, let's build a racetrack here at home.
Somebody had some money, and somebody had some equipment, and somebody had the land, and that's how they partnered up.
North Wilkesboro hosted its first race on dirt in 1947. At the time, NASCAR did not yet exist.
They expected maybe 3,000 people at the first race, and they had 10,000.
They knew they were onto something, and it didn't take long before Enoch was working for NASCAR full-time. Starting in 1949, North Wilkesboro went on to host 93 Cup Series races, and eventually, Mike became track president.
It was the best job I ever had in my life, working with my dad and then running the Speedway.
Oh, man, I can't believe this is the last one.
I know.
But on September 29, 1996, the track hosted its final Cup race. NASCAR decided to give North Wilkesboro's 2 races a year to much newer tracks in Texas and New Hampshire.
I just hate to leave it. Not good. I think it should have stayed.
It's the South. That's where the sport come from the foothills, the short tracks, the dirt tracks, and all it is now is just a money racket.
80% of the racetracks I ever won a race on, they're not in existence anymore as far as running Winston Cup, so it's just another race.
So for decades, North Wilkesboro just sat.
I didn't like to look at it. It was just deteriorated like that, and the buildings fell in, and you could see it. It just what was there at one time, how vibrant and alive, and the people that came. It's just amazing that it could go down that way.
Now, almost 27 years later, the track is getting an $18 million facelift, and the Cup Series is coming back. Did you honestly ever think we'd get to where we are now?
No, not without the influx of a lot of money to come back, and luckily that's what happened.
You could argue it's one of the only good things to come out of COVID, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
What would your dad think of all this?
He'd be pretty amazed. He would like it, I'm sure.
And guys, all that history and all that hard work comes to fruition this week.
Yeah, the excitement starts Tuesday with the ASA Stars National Series, and then Wednesday, the Cars Tour rolls in with 2 races. Dale Earnhardt Jr. will return to the track here at North Wilkesboro Wednesday.
Then Thursday, you've got the All-Star Hauler Parade. All-Star Friday features Truck Series practice, Cup Series practice, and qualifying pit crew challenge. Then there's a concert with Midland and Chase Rice.
And Saturday features the Truck Series Tyson 250 at 1:30 and Cup Series heat races in the evening. And then the All-Star Race Sunday with excitement all day at the Speedway. Dierks Bentley has your pre-race concert at 1:30, who I saw in person once before. And green flag drops at 8 p.m. for the Cup Series All-Star Race.
It's a jam-packed week here at North Wilkesboro Speedway, but of course the crown jewel is the Cup Series All-Star Race.
And many of the sport's top drivers will have the opportunity to compete on this historic track. You can see the likes of Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and our Triad native Austin Dillon. So how do these drivers earn a spot in this All-Star field, Lauren?
Well, John, the field is open to any driver who won a points race in 2022 or 23, as well as past All-Star race winners and former Cup champions. And there will be 3 spots up for grabs additionally. The top 2 finishers in the 100-lap All-Star Open will qualify, and the winner of the fan vote gets a spot too. Richard Petty and Darrell Waltrip are the co-grand marshals for this All-Star race. Both of them raced here at North Wilkesboro, Petty with 15 victories and Waltrip with 10.
The driver who won the final NASCAR Cup race here at North Wilkesboro and his crew chief are the race dignitaries. Jeff Gordon will serve as the honorary pace car driver, and his crew chief, Ray Evernham, is the honorary starter. Gordon won the Tyson Holly Farms 400 back on September 29th, 1996. We have everything you need to know on WXII12.com. Just scan this QR code. It'll take you right to our race day guide. We've got a schedule of races and events, exclusive content, and much more.
And when we come back, a look at a driver who's breaking some barriers.
Plus, how the love for NASCAR stretches far beyond the South.
First, though, how about a little NASCAR trivia? As we told you, Jeff Gordon won the last race at North Wilkesboro. Do you know who won the first race? And do you know what was so unique about the track that day? We'll have the answer when we return. Back now with our trivia answer. We asked who won the first Cup Series race at North Wilkesboro and what was so unique about the track that day. Bob Flock was your winner, October 16th, 1949. Harry Truman was president. And the track, it was just a half mile that day. It has been an eighth of a mile longer for the other 92 Cup races here.
In sports, just like in life, representation is everything. If you see someone that looks like you, you can dream to achieve it. Rajah Caruth is living proof of that, and he's also trying to build his own stardom in NASCAR.
May 23, 1952, Wendell Scott became a pioneer in racing when he broke the color barrier, the first African American to compete in an official stock car race. Scott would wait nearly 8 more years until 1961 to make his NASCAR Premier Series debut. Fast forward nearly 71 years to the date of Scott breaking of the color barrier, NASCAR has 5 African-American drivers at the top level, with countless others on the smaller circuits. Rajah Caruth is part of the generation of new drivers in NASCAR. Born in Washington, D.C., his path to the track begins with a cinematic influence.
From the Cars movie, Lightning McQueen, when I was 4 or 5 years old, to collecting die-cast cars, little toys, being a student of the sport by just reading about it and watching YouTube videos to going to my first race when I turned 12 at Richmond, and really the rest is history.
The son of educators, his father a professor at Howard, his mom an admissions director at Georgetown, immersed himself in the history of racing, and at his first event, he was hooked at first sight.
I remember walking through the grandstands just like any other stadium, right? You walk through the tunnel and you see the field of play, or in this case the racetrack in front of you, and so walking out there and seeing the Cup Series cars out there qualifying was something I'll never forget, because the sounds are amazing, the sensations in your body are real, the smells and the tastes are amazing, and that's something I'll never forget.
That first trip to Richmond set Carruth on a path to racing. Not even 21 years old, Carruth is a full-time member of GMS Racing.
My team level on my 24 Wendell Scott Foundation team, like my crew chief, literally everybody's got years and years in the sport. Her and I learned so much from our elder teammates, and we gained so much from on the day-to-day level to experientially and learn about stories.
The learning isn't just reserved for his professional life. Carruth is putting in hours in the classroom as well. He's a full-time student at Winston-Salem State.
I understand the importance of education, especially for being a black man in this country, and luckily Winston-Salem State is obviously in North Carolina and has the motorsports management program, and it's really a great fit for me.
In every sense of the word, Carruth is a role model. He's also a big part of NASCAR's history. With NASCAR's diversity growing, he wants to be part of opening doors for other minority drivers.
When I was younger, seeing Bubba and Lewis Hamilton compete and be successful was a great confidence booster as to I can chase this dream, and still really my passion drove me, and that was my number one, but seeing the representation in them was a big deal. So if I can do that in any way and pay that back or pay my dues is the least I can do.
On May 20th, Carruth will visit North Wilkesboro. He wasn't even born yet when NASCAR last raced at one of its grassroots tracks. But like the historian he is, Raja has goosebumps about being part of this special night.
It's really special, from seeing why the sport left North Wilkesboro to see why it's coming back is really awesome to be a part of it.
Photographer Teresh Moore and myself had such a great time hanging out with Raja, but here's an interesting note that we asked him. I asked him, is he a thrill junkie, right? Drive 150 miles per hour around a racetrack, you think he would. Raja tells me he's not. He drives like a grandpa on the road. In fact, he says the calmest he is behind the wheel of the car. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series is Saturday. Qualifying is set for 10:30 a.m. and the green flag drops on the Tyson 250 at 1:30. Ron Hornaday Jr. is the Grand Marshal. He's a four-time Craftsman Truck Series champion. Mike Skinner, who won the first Truck Series championship in 1995, is the honorary starter. And legendary Cup Series crew chief Jeff Hammond is the honorary pace truck driver.
Of course, we're here in the heart of NASCAR country in North Carolina, but the sport has expanded coast to coast over the years. It's attracted Northerners like me and Michael Wheeler. He's originally from New York, but he honed his passion for racing right here at tracks in the Southeast, and more specifically at North Wilkesboro.
It was my old family photo album my parents gave to me from when they moved from New York, and one of the first early days in this album is the North Wilkesboro race.
Snapshots of a racetrack in its glory days, and a teenager in his formative years.
I'm this little kid right there, just guarding a race car all by myself.
That little kid is Michael Wheeler, fittingly nicknamed Wheels. He grew up in South Hold, New York. His dad raced short tracks in the Northeast, so Michael was always around race cars.
I ended up getting a NASCAR license to travel a little bit, and the team out of New York would come down to these big races at Martinsville and North Wilkesboro Speedway. I remember those couple of years missing school and coming down for the big events.
And with the big events came the big stars.
That's our car getting ready for tech, and Junior's right behind us. So it was obviously neat to have Dale Earnhardt walking around or Darrell Waltrip walking around and seeing his car go by. It was very much surreal.
That bright-eyed teenager is now the Senior Director of Operations at 2311 Racing. He honed his passion at tracks in this region, like North Wilkesboro, from the humblest of beginnings.
We actually, being from New York and Long Island, we were the 24 car, but we didn't out-qualify the other 24 cars, so we had to make it into an 84. And that was actually one of my jobs with duct tape and electrical tape, was trying to make an 8 out of it too.
While Michael was developing his love for racing and his craftsmanship, His mother was developing these film photos from the 1990s, a permanent reminder of the glory and feeling of North Wilkesboro Speedway.
It's like going to play pickup baseball game at a Major League Baseball park and then seeing the professionals go out there. It's definitely a different level than what you're used to. It's different for me now because we are those people, and you see local people come around and you know, you take the time to make sure you give them a smile and you know, take a picture with them. Because, yeah, 30 years ago, I was one of those kids.
Michael Wheeler has come a long way from that teenager in those photos at North Wilkesboro Speedway. He said back then his biggest concern was not getting run over. Well, now he's focused on 2311 becoming one of the big dogs of racing teams in the next 5 to 10 years.
When we return, we're going to hear from a couple of NASCAR Hall of Famers, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Richard Childress. Their thoughts on the return of NASCAR here to North Wilkesboro Speedway. But first, more trivia. No big surprise that Richard Petty won the most Cup races in North Wilkesboro history. That's an easy guess. He found victory lane 15 times. But do you know who won the second most Cup races in track history? Back with that answer in just a minute. First things first, we have our trivia answer. Right before the break, we asked who won the second most Cup Series all-time in track history. Richard Petty's 15 wins are the most all-time. In second place, DW, Darrell Waltrip. He was a 10-time winner at Wilkesboro, capturing his first checkered flag here in 1977, his last in 91, and he also won 5 straight races here in the early 80s. We are just days away, of course, from the Cup Series All-Star race here. People have been fighting for this day for decades, and that includes a lot of prominent people, including former 15-time NASCAR most popular driver Dale Earnhardt Jr. Back during COVID in 2020, he and some friends through iRacing scanned the track and brought a lot of new attention to North Wilkesboro. He, however, is quick to give a lot of the credit to this community.
I was not sure it was ever going to happen. So I was one of the people that didn't believe that we would ever be racing there again, much less in the Cup Series. I have to give the community and all of the people that have been dedicated to this racetrack over the last 2 decades for the credit of the track surviving long enough for these opportunities. And so, you know, it was easy for me to walk in there and go, man, let's race here, Marcus, you know, but there was a lot of things happening over the last 2 decades that I wasn't involved in. Ms. Parson, Benny's wife, a lot of people have really pushed hard to keep the hope alive.
We also caught up with Richard Childress. He competed here as a driver in the 70s and early 80s, and as a team owner, actually won here 5 times with Dale Earnhardt behind the wheel. He believes the return of racing to North Wilkesboro is going to bring a lot of new fans into the sport.
I think it's a piece of history that's going to be reopened, and I think for the fans that hadn't seen what the racing was back in the 90s when we were racing there, in the 80s, I think are going to be impressed to see the track is totally different. It's uphill, downhill, one corner is different from the other.
A lot more still to get to in our final half hour of news. Lainey Pope's got something fun for us. She's going to take a look at NASCAR's roots in moonshine smuggling and go for a ride in a bootlegger's car.
And we'll meet a triad man whose family made NASCAR what it is today.
And we'll take a look back at the last NASCAR Cup race held here in 1996. Welcome back to beautiful North Wilkesboro Speedway. We are counting down the days to NASCAR's return to this storied track.
Yeah, NASCAR raced here for nearly 4 decades before leaving for bigger and newer tracks in 1996, and fans were heartbroken at the thought that NASCAR wouldn't return back to this track here.
Now, though, that hope is reality. We are just a few days away from the 2023 NASCAR Cup Series All-Star Race.
And guys, the sport has really rich roots here. Some of NASCAR's greatest drivers got their start bootlegging moonshine on the back roads of North Carolina.
Absolutely true. The team of NASCAR legend Junior Johnson and a couple of his buddies, Millard Ashley and Willie Clay Call, made and ran their shine right out of Wilkes County.
Now here's where it gets cool. Laney Pope visited with Willie Call's family at their distillery, and she took a ride in one of the original 1960s moonshine haulers.
Bootlegging was a way of life. You know, some people might have not liked it, but it was the way men fed their families.
The Call family knows that way of life very well.
Welcome to Call Family Distillers.
Brian Call has preserved his family's history in a distillery/museum in Wilkes County.
So our family goes back 7 generations to a Lutheran minister, and he had a legal distillery, and this was the Reverend Daniel Call and Mary Jane. This is my grandpa, Willie Simon Call. That's where the federal agents got him in 1951.
Despite the risk of prison, the whiskey business paid the bills and was passed along to Brian's dad, Willie Clay Call.
Well, when Grandpa went to the penitentiary, he started helping his uncle, Howard. He would get in the car and go with Howard and unload whiskey, and he started hauling around 14 or 15. He'd put a nice sports coat on and a Stetson hat, and they thought he was somebody of importance, like a judge or a lawyer.
Willie and his buddies, Junior Johnson and Millard Ashley, worked together to make it, sell it, and run it as fast as they could without getting caught. Willie's nickname was the Uncatchable. He was never stopped by police, but was once arrested under conspiracy charges.
They had to have some fast cars, and Junior helped my dad, you know, stay ahead of the law with working on the motors and having real fast cars.
Yes.
Here, that's my dad and Junior and Millard, and that's the car we're going to take a ride in today, the 66 Dodge. It's Rolling Thunder. We're ready to roll.
Let's roll. Don't believe there's any seatbelt in here.
No, you better hold on.
Hold on, as they say.
All the miles on this Hemi's moon where Dad hauled whiskey in.
How many miles does it show on there?
70,248. He'd start out Sunday night, and he'd do 2 to 3 trips a night. Maybe he might take a load to Statesville, then Winston, and might finish up in Burlington.
Today, we're headed to the North Wilkesboro Speedway, which, like Willie's whiskey, is being given a second life.
Now it seems like the jobs are coming back a lot, and racing's bringing a lot to the community. There's a lot going on.
Brian remembers going to the Speedway as a child after class at C.C. Wright Elementary.
Sitting there daydreaming, wanting them to hurry up where we get down and see Darrell Waltrip or somebody qualify.
And when racing came back to the track for the revival race, Brian drove this car as the official pace car.
So this car, it'll run 70 mile an hour in first gear. Second gear, it'll run 120.
Wow. What happens in third gear?
I don't know.
I don't think I want to find out either. All right, go.
There's 120. You can imagine running 120 on these roads. They had their hands full. On the old map, this road was called Bootlegger Highway years ago. Miller Curve, it had a bump there. So if you come in there wide open, you hit that bump, you have to be ready to straighten it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not you'd be going down through the hay field.
It wasn't hay, but corn that revved engines those days. Ronald Queen is the director of operations at the Speedway and knows the partnership of moonshine and racing well.
They all grew up together in their childhood, and for them to see this, it would be awesome. It's like Junior said, it'll never go away. It's the history, and this place is the history.
The rich history lives on at the track and at the Call Distillery with the crafting of the family recipe.
We want to do it the way my dad, we ferment it in wood.
And Brian has even crafted this year's All-Star Race trophies.
All right, this is the Win the World 125 trophy they'll get at the racetrack.
A man of many talents.
One call does it all.
and exceptional taste.
Fermentation starts off real sweet, then towards the end of fermentation, it's got a sour taste to it.
Ooh, it is sweet.
Yep, sweet as honey. Kind of sounds like it's raining, don't it?
It does, just a little light
mash
rain.
ferment.
Yeah, it's very peaceful.
Call Family Distillers is the official moonshine of North Wilkesboro Speedway and will have a major presence All-Star Week. In addition to the Moonshine Still trophies you saw in Laney's story, they will open a Call Family Distillers checkered past speakeasy at the top of the front stretch grandstands.
There is a grassroots group that has been working toward this day for almost 2 decades. Save the Speedway formed in 2005, and when they did, they hoped to answer 2 questions. Number 1, what would it take to reopen North Wilkesboro? And number 2, if they were able to get to that point, what kind of races would they be able to host here? Over the first dozen years or so, there were lots of ups and downs, optimisms, starts, then followed by letdowns. But one of the co-founders tells me there was a meeting that happened about 5 years ago that changed everything.
I think the turning point was really in 2018, in which Terry Parsons and myself met kind of under the cover of darkness with Marcus Smith and Speedway Motorsports. It was kind of a turning point in which we were able to finally get some traction onto this, kind of start gaining a little bit of ground. We were able to present to them and show that this is a viable effort, but if you guys can help us out and work with us, and you guys are playing the point on this, I think that it will be much bigger than we could ever imagine.
Stephen Wilson tells me the popularity of virtual iRacing played a big role here too. That introduced a whole new, younger set of fans to North Wilkesboro Speedway and all of its quirks.
It's going to be a busy week right into the weekend here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. And if you're coming up for any of it, the big advice is plan ahead and be prepared. Speedway Motorsports leaders have been working with NCDOT and Highway Patrol since the All-Star race was announced. During races last August, traffic and parking were a mess, and they're hoping their plan makes it easy to get to and from the Speedway and find parking.
All of us are working hard, the Highway Patrol, the DOT, Speedway officials, to make sure we get cars off the road into the parking lots, parked quickly and efficiently as possible. And so please be patient with us. After the race, we're going to work hard to get everyone out as fast and efficiently as possible, but it will take time.
People should purchase parking ahead of time, and they're asked to carpool and arrive early.
There are, of course, many passionate racing fans in the Piedmont Tribe, but very few have as rich a family history in this sport as Colbert Seagraves. He's the executive director of the Winston Cup Museum in Winston-Salem. We caught up with him to talk about the return of the All-Star race here, the current state of NASCAR, and his father's influence on the sport so many people love.
From 1972 to 1996, I went to every race.
When it comes to North Wilkesboro Speedway, or NASCAR history in general, Colbert Seagraves knows about as much as anybody. At the Winston Cup Museum in Winston-Salem, where he's the executive director, you'll find ticket stubs from the final race, an old seat cushion, and all kinds of other cool stuff.
North Wilkesboro is a magical racetrack as far as I'm concerned. It's always been one of my favorite tracks. I was glad to see NASCAR going back to their roots. I think they've gotten away from it a little bit, and I think going to Wilkesboro is going to help bring some of the fans that have gone away back into the sport.
Seagraves says Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s death, the retirement of Dale Earnhardt Jr. and other greats, and a lack of current rivalries have caused some fans to lose interest. As the name of the museum suggests, a lot of his fondest memories come from a different time in the sport and center around his father, R.J. Reynolds executive and NASCAR Hall of Famer Ralph Seagraves.
In 1969, the federal government banned advertising on television and radio from the tobacco companies. The tobacco companies had $70 million to spend, and so they brought in their top sales division managers from around the country to try to figure out how to spend that money, the best way to allocate it. So my father was one of those, and Junior Johnson approached him about sponsoring his race team. And when my dad asked him, you know, what he needed, he said about $150,000 a year. And my dad said, well, we got $70 million, what else have you got?
Just 2 years later, NASCAR's top level of competition became known as the Winston Cup Series.
NASCAR, you know, when R.J. Reynolds got involved, did not have hardly any marketing experience or anything. I don't think they had but 2 or 3 people that worked in their marketing department. RJ Reynolds had hundreds, and you know, we knew how to do things and showed, and it was a perfect marriage.
The marriage lasted until 2003, 7 years after the final Cup race at North Wilkesboro. Now Seagraves and other fans of a bygone era are getting set for a trip back in time.
The short tracks are, you know, are where the most action is. You get the big wreck at Daytona, you get the big wreck at Talladega, but you get a whole lot of little wrecks at the short tracks, and they're beating and banging. Wilkesboro is an extremely aggressive racetrack. The drivers love driving that track, and it's going to be an exciting race. It's really going to help the community, Wilkes County, a lot, and I think it'll trickle down to Winston-Salem and the Triad, and you know, I think it's good for the sport. I think it's good for the state. I think it's good for NASCAR.
Another family synonymous with NASCAR is the Hayes family. Bruce Hayes and his family have been involved in NASCAR from the very start. And in fact, NASCAR would look a lot different without their involvement.
Car racing is part of the fiber of North Carolina. As history would tell it, it was in these mountains where bootleg drivers would race through the Appalachia during the time of Prohibition. And that grassroots birth of racing history would open the doors for a man like Bruce Hayes to fall in love with the sport of racing.
In the 50s we got started with some of these younger drivers that faded out later, but we've been involved ever since with somebody, and we've had a top car ever since we started, really.
But his involvement in NASCAR began with a distinct triad tie. For 13 years, Ralph Seagraves was president of RJ Reynolds Special Events Operations. Already involved in the sponsorship of NASCAR, Seagraves and Hayes struck up a friendship, and as they say, the rest is history.
Run into Ralph Seagraves. He was working in Washington, D.C., and he was working for sports marketing for RJ Reynolds. And he and I got hooked up together, and of course we live here close together anyway. So Ralph helped me. In the 1950s, everybody was trying to get parts for the car and get motors for the car, and anything they could get to make the car run better, tires and things like that. So we didn't have a lot of money to work with here at the jewelry store, so I got out and got a lot of people, you know, that was involved in racing to help us with parts and things like that.
Now in his 80s, he's a living history of NASCAR and racing in the state of North Carolina. Hayes and Hayes Jeweler has been a mainstay when it comes to sponsoring races and its drivers, not to mention a laundry list of drivers who would eventually take home the checkered flag.
One of the first good sponsors we had racing was Ralph Brinkley, and he had so many races that he won at that time. Ralph was a local guy. He was from Lexington, and so we took him in for, gosh, I guess it was some 20 years. I happened in the early 80s to own Caraway Speedway also, and I got involved with Earnhardt and all of them because he would come down there and practice on our track at Caraway before they go to the big tracks.
And as his profile grew, so did his influence. Looking for new avenues to remain involved with NASCAR, Hayes came up with a plan to create one of the most iconic pieces in NASCAR history. Hayes is the creator of the Winston Cup Trophy.
We designed most all the trophies, even some that they're doing right now. We designed some of them way back then, but we'd sketch out them and I'd show them to people that, like Ralph Seagraves and some of the people over there in sports marketing, and we'd design them and then they'd get their approval.
For over 60 years, Hayes has been involved in NASCAR and its race circuit. In fact, he's the longest running sponsor on the circuit, and he has no plans of stopping anytime soon.
Now it's got bigger and bigger, and I think it's going to certainly be bigger now because of the way the racing people's going, merchandising it and with the smaller tracks and shorter tracks. I think it'll be bigger now than it's ever been.
Stay with us. We'll be back with much more from North Wilkesboro Speedway.
How about a little more trivia? Race fans certainly love action, but can you tell us what the track record is for most cautions in a race and most lead changes in a race at North Wilkesboro? We'll have the answer when we return. Back now with an answer to that trivia question. We asked what the track record is here for most cautions in a cup race and the record for most lead changes. Most cautions in a cup race in North Wilkesboro history is 17. That happened April 21st, 1991. Darrell Waltrip went on to win that Wreck Fest. And the most lead changes ever, a whopping 28. Can you imagine? October 1st, 1995. That was the third to last race ever at Wilkesboro. Mark Martin was the winner that day.
NASCAR's return is exciting for the surrounding communities. In fact, they've got a big party. Actually, two parties involved. The town of Wilkesboro and North Wilkesboro are hosting Fan Fest in the Boroughs is Thursday night from 4 to 10. Events will be held at Yadkin Valley Marketplace in North Wilkesboro and the Carolina West Wireless Community Commons in Wilkesboro. The NASCAR All-Star Race Haulers Parade will drive through both towns around 6 p.m. There's also concerts in both towns, food trucks, and family-friend activities.
As droves of people head to North Wilkesboro for the racing, there's also a chance to help those in need. Speedway Children's Charity is hosting several fundraisers this week, starting with a cornhole tournament in North Wilkesboro at the Fan Fest in the Boroughs. Then the Speedway Children's Charity's track walk is Friday morning. For a $25 donation, you can walk a lap around the track. That walk is Friday morning from 8:30 to 9:30. You can find a registration link for the cornhole tournament and the walk on our website.
The return of NASCAR here means so much to people who have spent their entire lives in Wilkes County. Jody Call is one of those men. Today he teaches at Wilkes Community College, but he grew up just a few thousand feet from this racetrack. As construction crews put the finishing touches on North Wilkesboro Speedway, Jody Call can't help but think back to his own childhood. Here he is with Santa when he was 3.5 years old. You see that jean jacket he's wearing? It's filled with corporate logo patches, just like his favorite NASCAR drivers at the time. When he was in the 9th grade, he listed racetrack as his summer job in a journal entry. He worked at the Speedway from 1987 to 1995.
Doing construction work and general upkeep and garbage collecting during the races.
What was that like?
It was chaotic. It was a bunch of teenage boys. The fondest memories were the weeks leading up to the races. The campers would come in from Michigan, Wisconsin, all over the United States. During the weekend of the races, at night when we would have to pick up garbage and clean up the grounds, all the bonfires that were going on, you would smell smoke, you would smell hickory wood burning from the campfires, and just being able to catch back up with people.
Like most locals, he was devastated when NASCAR left town after the September race in '96, and not just because he was a fan.
It impacted my family a lot because my dad, my Uncle Paul worked here, my Uncle Victor, my Uncle Bill. Prior to my grandfather's passing away, he worked here as well, so I'm the third generation who worked here. So the economic impact was huge to the community, but it was pretty big to my family as well.
Several estimates have suggested that each cup race at Wilkesboro generated at least $15 million for the regional economy, and that was more than 20 years ago.
I would dream about this place a few times a month, and there was a longing for it, and I would still come here and visit with my uncle. Would bring my kids to the Speedway to look around, to just tell them about what I went through as a child. Never imagined it would come back after many failed starts.
Jody was back at the track this past August along with his family when the Cars Tour Late Model Series came to town. Soon enough, NASCAR's best and brightest will be back here too.
It's very emotional. You stand there witnessing and thinking this would never happen, it would never come back. And to be a part of it and to share that with my family as well, that's one of the greatest feelings I've ever experienced in my life.
We have one final trivia question to throw at you, and it is our toughest one by far. We're asking you to name the 3 active drivers who have at least one career Cup Series win who were not yet alive during the final race at Wilkesboro. Again, that was September 29th, 1996. Rack your brain, and we'll have an answer for you when we return. We are back and ready to answer that nearly impossible trivia question. We asked you to name the 3 active drivers with at least 1 career win in the Cup Series, but they were not yet alive when Wilkesboro hosted its final Cup race in September of 1996. If you got even one of these, you're really, really good. Justin Haley, Austin Cindric, and William Byron. All 3 drivers were born at least a year after Wilkesboro closed for the first time.
Now tonight we've heard about the history of the track, the people who made this revival possible, and then of course the future of this track moving forward.
As we wrap up our coverage here, I want to take one more look at the schedule for the week. There's a lot going on.
That's right. The ASA Stars National Series races Tuesday, and then the Cars Tour rolls in Wednesday. Dale Earnhardt Jr. will return to the track here at North Wilkesboro Wednesday for the Cars Tour.
Thursday, the All-Star Hauler Parade. All-Star Friday features Truck Series practice, Cup Series practice and qualifying, Pit Crew Challenge, and then a concert featuring Midland and Chase Rice.
On Saturday, we've got the Truck Series Tyson 250 at 1:30 and Cup Series heat races that night. And then the main event, the All-Star Race Sunday with excitement all day. Dierks Bentley has a pre-race concert. That's around 1:30. And everything gets going at 8 o'clock that night for the 2023 Cup Series All-Star Race.
As tens of thousands of people get ready for racing's return to North Wilkesboro, we'd like to take a look back.
Look way back, almost 30 years, September 29th, 1996. That was the moment when the rev of the engines here at North Wilkesboro stopped and a return to racing seemed almost impossible.
It's a familiar face to Triad fans. Dave Gorin was here. He stayed with fans long after the race to get their thoughts about the race's final day.
The race is over. Time for the fans to leave, but not all the fans want to go home. Wilkesboro's Kay Ashley has been coming to races here since she was just a little girl.
They ought to just keep this track. This is sentimental. 50 years. We ought to stay here.
Wiley Barnes of Chester, South Carolina has been driving to races here since 1955. He says that NASCAR is thinking only about money and shutting out fans like him.
Getting away from both of the base fans, moving more and more up. It's getting away from the grassroots.
Wilkesboro's Jeff Bullis says NASCAR doesn't pay enough attention to those roots.
You kill the root and the tree dies, man.
The stands were packed for this afternoon's race. Wilkes County Deputy Tom Clark says he was here before there were even stands around most of this track.
To me, it's a sad day. I'll miss it.
So all the talk is over and reality has set in. There will be no more Winston Cup racing here at North Wilkesboro, at least for the foreseeable future. But those who have earned their living here say it's time to get over it and move on.
80% of the racetracks I ever won a race on, they're not in existence anymore as far as running Winston Cup, so it's just another race.
Jeff Bodine won 3 races at North Wilkesboro. He says he'll have tears in his eyes for this place, but he understands what has happened here.
No, it's progress. Sometimes progress doesn't always make us happy, but I guess there's not much we can do about it. They'll still be racing here with super trucks, some late models and things like that, so that'll be good.
Jeff Gordon won that race, and of course he'll be back here at North Wilkesboro to be the honorary pace car driver for the All-Star race.
And that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in to Back on Track. Racing returns to North Wilkesboro.
You'll find bonus features from this special as well as a race day guide on our website at WXII12.com.
And as we say goodbye here, we'll take one more look at the sights and sounds from North Wilkesboro over the years.
North Wilkesboro is a magical racetrack as far as I'm concerned.
They expected maybe 3,000 people at the first race. They had 10,000.
It's like Junior said, it'll never go away. It's the history, and this place is the history.
It's just unbelievable right now, especially here at North Wilkesboro, the last race.
Oh man, I can't believe this is the last one.
I know.
The economic impact was huge to the community.
I felt something at a racetrack that I hadn't felt in a long, long time.
I think on race day there's going to be a lot of people cheering for a lot of different reasons.